Johnny Mac by Galleries Bar Booking Games, Ocean Casino Resort. Go to the Gallery, go to Ocean. Go for the win. For more, visit oceanac.com. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. John McMullen, Birds 365. Weekday mornings, 8 a.m. on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. Set to join us as the Eagles get ready for the Minnesota Vikings. And I know a lot of people yesterday were listening, John, and we got a lot of people who were buzzing about some of the things that you added on the program. So let's dive in to a bunch of Eagles stuff today as the Eagles continue at the NovaCare Complex as they get ready for their final preseason tilt this Saturday at 1. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, how are you, Mike?
All is well.
The dog days of summer, trying to get through it.
Dog days of summer are here, but obviously this team has a couple decisions still to make, some of which we chronicled yesterday. I think a lot of the buzz was your conversation with Bob and I about Nakobe Dean, and you kind of had a conspiracy theory that when the coaches get the chance, or when the media is out of there and the coaches get a chance to kind of make that change, they will. Was there any closer indication that could be coming today?
No, just the constant rotation. So same default setting. It starts with Devin White and Zach Vaughn, and then it became Devin White and Nakobe Dean, and then it was Nakobe Dean and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., and then it was Nakobe Dean and Zach Vaughn. Just constant churn with the linebackers and the linebacker duo as Vic tries to figure it out. Ultimately, knowing him and knowing how long he's been around in this league and how much coaching he's done, I got to believe he's got a good feel for what he wants at this point, and we'll see it where it ends up. Today was interesting. It was more of a tilt back toward the offense, big A.J. Brown day, but it was a yellow practice. It wasn't a green full go practice. So everything kind of filters into it, but man, the way they rotate these linebackers, it makes you want to believe they're just going to use a rotation. And I asked Vic that flat out last time he talked, and he said, well, you'd prefer to have two. So I think ultimately he's going to have two, and I think ultimately it's going to be Devin White and Nakobe Dean, but we'll see.
John, we asked a question on X, and it's a simple question, not a hot taker. It's which new Eagles coordinator will have a bigger impact this season? It's tilted one way bigger, 62% to 37%. Which guy do you think the listeners think, and which guy do you think will have a bigger impact?
Well, to me, it's no contest. It's Vic. I think the listeners would tilt that way, but
63% say Kellen Moore will have a bigger impact this season.
I'm giving him too much credit. Well, I was about to say before, but everybody's so hyper-focused on offense, and I was saying, and I guess that's what it is. But, yeah, to me, I mean, look, this offense, with Mike Gill running it or John McMullen running it, it's going to be pretty good. I think if we ran the defense, it wouldn't be pretty good. And the whole philosophy, to me, in the Eagles offseason, if you want to boil it down, was, well, we're going to get a really good offense, and Vic will figure it out on defense. So I think by that standard alone, Vic's the more important one.
Yeah, and I actually said Kellen Moore for the reason that you kind of brought up, is that they just have so much talent on offense, and you've hinted at, and we said it yesterday, they were a top 10 offense last year, but I think we all think that, man, there was so much more on that offense, that Vic's defense doesn't even have to be like a top 5 or 10 defense if their offense is what we think it should be.
No, but they have to be middle of the road defense. And, last year they were at the bottom in most categories, most significant categories. And to get from 30, 31, 32 in certain instances to 15, 16, I think that turns you from an 11-win team to back to being a 13, 14-win team, potentially, even if you had last year's offense. So, part of it is, again, it's tough to screw up A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert, that offensive line, that quarterback, you add Saquon Barkley to the mix. It's tough to imagine them having a poor season offensively unless they're the one caveat to every NFL team, unless you're devastated by injury. So I think a lot of that poll is just because people are interested in offense, and that most of the stars on this team are on offense. But where you need the most improvement is on the defensive side of the ball, and you got a bunch of young players that you need to take either a first step, a quick first step with the rookies, or the younger players, you need significant improvement. And that to me is going to be, teaching and execution and things like that. And that's where Vic and his reputation comes into it.
I want to stay on defense with Vic Fangio. He spoke yesterday. Kellen Moore spoke today, so we'll dive into some more offense in just a little bit. But if for Vic Fangio's this version to work, who are the most important guys for the listeners in a Vic Fangio defense? And I know somebody texted in, right before you came on, saying like, "Hey, isn't this the same defense that they've been running the last couple of years? It might be similar." But who are some of the more important guys in a Vic Fangio defense?
Yeah, I mean, he's building the foundation on Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, so I would start with them. They're the most important. I think Bryce Huff and a consistent pass rush is very important as well. The back seven, they're more talented, but it's more unproven. When you talk about the young guys, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Cooper didn't have a great practice today, so that's one of those hiccups you're going to have with young players. CJ's back. But I think the front is going to have to sort of carry the defense as the back seven learns. We've talked about the linebackers a lot. And while we debate who the best linebackers are, on paper, it's not a good linebacker room when compared against the rest of the NFL. So, the strength remains up front. Those guys got to take the big step forward. Jalen Carter specifically, Jordan Davis specifically. And if they're able to, and you've seen it in practice, when the defensive front plays well, I mean, including the interior players with the edge rushers, when they play well, the defense plays well. And when they don't, it's a tough day.
Yeah, I don't know that. Are we not talking enough about the pass rush? Are we pretty secure that they're going to have a consistent and very good pass rush, or is that still a question?
Well, I think it's still a question until people see it. My thought is it's going to be a very good pass rush from the standpoint of, when they have bad days, it's when the guy that Lane Johnson's out there, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, those four specifically. And you could add in Mackay as well, who was back at practice. So nothing serious, as we kind of said there. When you have that group out there, it's tough sledding. But you see it every once in a while, and Sunday was a perfect example. They gave Lane Johnson a vet day, a rest day. He's 34. You tend to do that in camp. And here comes the gates are open, and they're all over the place, and they're swarming around. And that's just one guy. And you look at the rest of the NFL again. They're practicing against one of the best 2 or 3 offensive lines in football, and sometimes they don't look that good. And then when you get out and you play a normal team that might have a good offensive lineman here, an average one there, below average, all of a sudden it starts to accumulate. And I think that's what the Eagles are going through when it comes to practice. So you don't hear a lot about Bryce Huff. He's going against Lane every day. And to my knowledge, Lane Johnson will not be on his schedule for the rest of the season other than practice. So I think he's going to be fine. I think Josh Sweat's a good player. Jalen Carter has a chance to be an all-pro level player. Jordan Davis is very good. And then some of the depth pieces, obviously you need a big step up from Nolan Smith and, Brandon Graham, and people can talk about his age and they got to limit his snaps. I think it might go the other way. I think because he knows this is it, he might try to empty the fuel tank, so to speak. He might play more, especially in closing situations. They'll try to get Brandon, I think, on the field a little bit more than they have when they were trying to save him in years past. And he's still, when he's out there, his reps are still really, really effective.
John McMullen's with us, Burst 365 on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. Weekday mornings at 8 a.m. is where you can find that show. And, of course, John here on the Sports Bash. What about Cooper DeJean back? Is there any, in your mind, significant role for him, or did this injury kind of set him back enough where that's still not defined?
It set him back, but I do think people don't realize how much time there is still until the opener on September 6th. I mean, they're going to have their final 2 training camp practices this week, Wednesday and Thursday, the final preseason game on Saturday, and then cut down day a week from today. And then you're boiling it down to your 53 and your practice squad. And, you got plenty of time to prepare for that week 1 game. So, it's funny, before today's practice, I would have said, I still think Cooper's going to start in the slot and Quignon's going to start outside. But he struggled today, and he struggled, Cooper DeJean, pretty mightily in the slot against guys like Devontae, which is understandable, but even Britton Covey as well. And maybe it should be understandable because Britton generates pretty consistent separation. But it was a reminder that I think a lot of people don't realize he didn't play a lot inside at Iowa. Played a little bit more than Quinyon Mitchell, but he was an outside corner 90% of the time. So he's not used to playing inside either. And it's going to be a work in progress from that standpoint. But so he's got time. The question is he going to be ready to play that position, which is a new position to him? And Vic, I'm sure, will debate that because he's got good depth with Isaiah Rodgers and Keely Ringo, and where he wants to go. My problem, my overriding problem is Quinyon Mitchell. Like, I want him on the outside. I don't want to waste time with him in the slot. And he struggled today as well because he's playing the slot with the first team, and he's struggling with Devontae. So Kellen Moore is shifted to playing Devontae a lot more in the slot, which is something I think Eagles fans are going to like. And, Quinyon can't generally deal with him either.
Yeah. Good stuff with John McMullen here on the defensive side of the ball. You flip over. When you watch this offense, and I don't know what they're showing in preseason, but you see them a little bit, is it noticeably a different formation, style, philosophy when you see this Kellen Moore offense? Are you noticing the definitive differences from this to the last 2-3 seasons of Nick Sirianni?
Yeah, you see it. Well, you see more in practice, and they're very vanilla in the preseason games on purpose. Obviously, should see a little bit more in practice. There is going to be a little bit more, as Kellen said, distraction, eye candy, whatever you want to call it, from motion. There's 2 types of motion in his mind, and that's that the eye candy stuff just to sort of distract and test the discipline of the defense versus the actual motion where you're trying to scheme people open. So you have both kinds of it. Eagles have been bottom 5 in the league generally. They're probably going to be top 10 in the league with Kellen Moore because he likes it. and he says he likes it. And it goes back to when he was a player, he liked it, and when his dad, even if you want to go back to his youth, liked it. So he just likes it. So he's going to use it more. And then they're going to use a bunch more bunch formations to try to get people loose off the line of scrimmage. You're going to see AJ and Devontae moving around more rather than being static and playing. Like, you're going to see AJ playing the slot. You're going to see Devontae playing the slot. They can play all three positions, X, Z, flex, and they'll play all three different positions. And, he's going to try to utilize matchups and try to figure out where the weakness is on the opposing defense and try to get A.J. Brown. I mean, A.J., I called that was for my practice notes for SI, I just put A.J. Day. And, it's so easy for them to get the football to A.J. Brown over the middle of the field. You wonder, of all the things about the offense people complained about, that is the most perplexing to me. A little slant to A.J. Brown, easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Now, defenses can take that away and bracket it, but they weren't doing that all the time. And that to me is easy money for the Eagles offense.
Well, that'll certainly be something that, you hope to see more of. More A.J. Brown used in a variety of ways, more Devontae Smith. No one will have a problem with that. But what about the other new toy, Saquon Barkley? What sense are you getting? I know he had some we had to get some stretching back rubs today or anything. But what kind of sense are we getting with Saquon Barkley's usage this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a complementary thing in the passing game, but he'll be obviously a major part of the running aspect of the offense. And I think the Eagles' hope is that, they're going to be winning a lot of games late and trying to close games out. And they will be better equipped to close games out in the 4-minute offense with Saquon Barkley than they were with DeAndre Swift or even Miles Sanders. And I think that's probably the case. In the passing game, for the most part, he's been used more as a decoy to get the football to AJ and Devontae. But occasionally, they're mixing him in a little bit more. They tried a swing pass to him today out of an unbalanced formation with Jordan and Lane Johnson on the same side. So that was a little interesting tweak. And, the other day they were in the red zone and, most of the time, as I said, they've been using Saquon as the decoy. And there was one instance where they had AJ carry two defenders into the end zone and threw it underneath to Saquon. So, AJ was the clear out guy. So they keep adding things and they got plenty of weapons, but I mean, Nick's very honest about this. Kellen is very honest about it. The passing offense is going through who you think it's going through. And it should go through, by the way.
No doubt. I guess the last one on the offense. The offensive line has been a staple here. We talked a lot about Becton yesterday, but can this offensive line, is it comparable to last year, better than last year, not as good as last year?
Well, they lost Jason Kelce. I mean, I don't project it to be as good, but I don't think it's going to take. Typically, when you lose a Hall of Fame player who was still playing at an All-Pro level, you're going to take a significant hit. I don't think the Eagles are going to take a significant hit. I think Cam Jurgens is better equipped. He's a center. He's not a guard. So I think that he's now in his natural position. I think he's going to be fine. Does that mean he's going to be an All-Pro like Jason Kelce? Probably not this early in his career.
Yeah.
So you'll take a little bit of a step back. Lane Johnson has been lights out. I mean, if there's one guy, obviously the quarterback is number one. You saw the Eagles' offense when they lost A.J. Brown in Tampa. And then there's Lane. I mean, they're not the same team when Lane's not on the field. And we're talking about practice. Forget about games. You've seen it over the years when he's been injured. I mean, they can't even get the same kinds of reps in practice when he's not on the field. That's how important he is. Jordan Mailata is one of the best left tackles in football. Landon Dickerson is in the conversation to be the best guard in football. It's really good. You've been penciling together right guard with Mekhi Becton or Tyler Steen or even somebody else. Nick Gates was getting some right guard reps today because they had Mekhi on a bit of a pitch count because of his knee tweak he had on Sunday. They're going to have a good offensive line. It's just a matter of very similar to the offense. It's going to be good. It's just a matter of how good.
All right, John McMullen, Birds 365, weekday mornings, 8 a.m. on the Jacob Media YouTube channel, and, of course, here on the Sports Pass Live as the Eagles getting ready for Saturday's final tune-up against the Minnesota Vikings. They'll open the season Friday night, September 6th, against the Green Bay Packers. So a couple of NFC North teams back-to-back there. Any reunion with Jalen Mills in the cards? I keep seeing a lot of Jalen Mills stuff.
I don't think so. They have too many T-backs as it is. I think he posted something on Instagram.
Yeah, he put his jersey up with the eye emojis,
Yeah, well, I mean, no. They're probably going to have to cut guys that they don't want to cut.
Right.
Now, there is some uncertainty has shifted to safety. They have some injury issues. What are they going to do with James Bradbury? Is Avonte Maddox a corner or safety? How quickly is Sidney Brown going to get back? How quickly is Caden Stearns going to get up? But they got a lot of bodies, and I think they're more focused on wide receiver than anything else.
All right, John, we'll catch up with John tomorrow as we get ready for the Eagles and the Vikings and some of the battles that we'll be watching on Saturday afternoon. I would imagine no starters out there, but still things are going on, and we'll have that for you here on the Sports Pass. John McMullen, everybody. Thanks, John.
All right, thanks, Mike.
At JF McMullen. You can check him out.